Hi everyone, Adrian Groenewald of Leadership Platform. This is our Global Leadership Conversation 2, and it's also part of our #2020 DAL, Decade of Authentic Leadership. It's great to be with you on the first day, or actually it's the first day after the announcement in our country that we're going on lockdown, the entire country, and that's the trend all over the world. Leaders need to perform and be leadership fit and lead the way more than ever before. So it's very interesting times. We're trying to understand from experts what the essence of authentic leadership is, the kind of leaders we need now, and how to be an authentic leader, especially in these times. How should I lead my people? We're trying to expedite the emergence of authentic leaders to, in the process, eradicate weak, toxic, and incompetent leadership over the next decade. Exceptionally important. And maybe now, when we started this year with these interviews, coronavirus wasn't real, actually, as we started it 2 or 3 months ago. Now it's becoming very real that in the next decade, we need the kind of leaders that can deal with these sort of calamities or pandemics and others that will come, no doubt. So I'm interviewing experts, influencers in the leadership space, in the work environment across the globe. And with me, I did speak to our guest here about coronavirus last week briefly and impromptu, but today is going to be a little bit more structured, and it is about authentic leadership with Liezel, Blignaut, founder and CEO at HCBsolutions. That's Human Capital Business Solutions. Liezel, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Adrian. And yes, again, thank you for making me part of this very important conversation.
Liezel, off we go. So before you share with us a principle or two that leaders can implement to be better authentic leaders, to add to our quality conversation, just let's get on the same page. Just describe an authentic leader or authentic leadership from where you sit.
Okay, so, and I think that's a very important premises to start off with. What is authenticity and what is an authentic leader? Because if you are going to Google, or if you're going to ask people, everyone is going to give their own perception of what it is to be authentic or to be an authentic leader. For example, some people might say, it's someone that's empathetic. Other people might say it's someone that's got a very clear vision. So everyone attaches their own meaning to what it means to be authentic or an authentic leader. If we are to go and look at the source of the word of authenticity, it means to be your own true self. Okay, to be congruent with yourself. And I think that's important that we need to understand is that leaders want to be the authentic self, but that's not always where it ends. If we look at, for example, leaders out there, and if I may use the example of, let's say, Donald Trump and Nelson Mandela, and notice my hands, you would argue that both of them are very authentic in their leadership roles. They are the same people as what they were as a business leader or a leader of a community before that. And they pass on that authenticity. They were true to themselves and congruent to themselves in their leadership role. Was that helpful for the people that they led? Everyone would attach and say, yes, Nelson Mandela was a great leader. People that voted Donald Trump into power and continue to support him might think, he's a very authentic leader. So yes, authentic leadership is important, but I don't think that's where it starts and stops. What is important for me in authentic leadership is how it is important for the leader. It's important for the leader to know that they are unique, that there's not a one-size-fits-all in terms of great leadership, and that they need to discover what makes them tick. That's a start. But the next is what makes other people tick and how to bring out the best in other people so that other people find that they can be authentic and be aligned to their purpose.
Okay, so you're saying that one can be, and I've heard this before from other experts out there, that we need more than just authentic leadership, because Donald Trump, one might argue, is authentically who he is, and it seems to be working for him. He's successful in several spheres of life. Nelson Mandela, one would argue, was authentic. And Donald Trump can't try and be like Nelson Mandela or Nelson Mandela like Donald Trump, because then you're not authentic. But you do extend it a little bit further. You're saying it is about knowing who I am, being true to me, understanding what makes me tick, but then also having the maturity and presence of mind to extend and think of others, and think what makes Liezel tick, what's important to her. Yeah, so am I capturing that correctly? And if so, how big is the gap between that kind of leader and what we're actually finding out there? I guess we are finding it out there, but are we finding enough of that?
We are finding that in pockets, but absolutely not enough of that. And I think part of it is that the landscape has changed. We are more interconnected. There are more and more people that follow people because them being aligned to purpose, and not because you're my leader and I follow you just because you're in that position. So I think and I'll share a few examples where I think it's bigger than a gap. And in a lot of places, it's actually a crisis, a leadership crisis. And I think you started off with this leadership platform by talking about a leadership crisis and not a gap. So let's look at real realities out there. And by the way, if I talk about leadership, it's not just workplaces. We're talking about country, community leaders, and parents as well as leaders. If you look at workplaces, there are some sort of shocking workplace stats. Other than just being that people are actively disengaged, we also sitting with shocking workplace stats that people leave a manager, leader, not the company. We know that people trust a stranger more than they trust their own boss. And those are all reasons why people are disengaged and leave. And by the way, disengaged employee is something that leaders should be more concerned even about than employee turnover. If you look at country leadership, I mean, this us versus them, because a leader needs to align people. I mean, the leader is not a leader of a political party or need to act in his own self-interest or lead by divide, conquering, etc. So if you look at disgruntlement with people about their leadership in their country, that's another example. In terms of parenting, if you look at the number of youth from a very young age that is depressed, okay, that also kind of points to that we have a problem with leadership in general.
Absolutely. So the gap is big. And I guess there would be a lot of people who would, especially in today's world, it's a very popular thing to criticize a Donald Trump. In your definition of authentic leadership, would you say he is an authentic leader? Or is there another angle or depth to authentic leadership that a leader like him may or may not subscribe to? Putting himself and Nelson Mandela forward as just different examples. I often refer to authentic leaders as people who tap into their best selves. Now, for me, that just gives another angle to authentic leadership, and I want your view on it, because I can be authentic to how I grew up. I'm authentic to my autocratic, dictatorial self, perhaps. I am the same in my business environment, at home, and in the political realm. So on some level, I am authentic. I'm congruent. But if you add another angle to it, then I would say, no, Donald Trump is not being his best self. It's never one's best self to act in some ways that he acts. So on a certain superficial level of authentic leadership, I would argue, yes, he's authentic. On a deeper level, based on a standard, let's say my standard of saying, it's when you tap into and connect with your best self, then I start looking at him differently. Anyway, any comment on that?
Well, absolutely. You need to tap into your own best self, but that's not enough. If that best self doesn't bring out the best in other people, you're actually not being a leader. You're just focusing on me. And I think some of your other speakers mentioned that as well. So the things that we work with, and I do want to bring this in because That's the stuff that we're doing now at the moment. And I experienced it myself in my role as a business leader and the work that I'm doing in consulting and coaching, and as a parent, is how do we bring the message across about to help leaders, in this example, to see themselves more clearly, and to align to the unique purpose. So, Audrey, I'm going to ask you a few questions, okay? And you can think about it. You don't need to share it, because I think what's worth everyone watching this video could maybe answer these questions for themselves. So, if I may just ask a few questions. So, the first question is: if you were to think back about a time in your life, it can be work, it can be personal, doesn't matter, where you experienced high energy and high performance. So you got the results as well. Can you think about a moment like that?
Yeah.
Okay. 100%. So if you think back about that time, the chances are that you were playing to your strengths, your unique strengths, what made you unique, what made you congruent to yourself. That was your authenticity. And notice that you got results from it. Okay, and you can think what they were. And it energized you, and you can think about how it felt. Now, after you've done that, quickly think about the other people that you worked with, because I assume you work with other people in that situation as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So think about their energy and think about their performance as well. And I'm very, very certain is that they also had high energy. And they also received results, achieved results, and performed because of that, right? Now, I mentioned before that you were probably then playing to your strengths, but not just for the benefit of you, also for the benefit of others. So you effectively used your strengths that didn't only benefit yourself. So one thing that we point people to, if you were taking, for example, strengths, and there's many strengths assessments out there, the one that we work with is the one that's most well known, and that's the Clifton Strengths. So Clifton Strengths, that assessment has been taken by 22 million people globally. If you look, and I'll just imagine this, there are 34 strengths, okay, like in a circle. You very comfortably play with your top, let's say 5, 7, whatever. And then there are strengths that's here. You can use it and you can work it in if you need to. But then there are a lot of other strengths here that's at your blind spot. It doesn't come naturally to you. Now, if you were to look at just the top 10 strengths, is the chances of someone having the same top 10 strengths as you in the same sequence is 1 in 176 trillion. So if you feel unique and not the same as others, authenticity, that's the reason why. So that's the first thing that we focus on is we don't focus on weaknesses. We actually help people to understand that your weaknesses are sometimes your strength that's misapplied or in overdrive. And that a third of your strengths actually comes from those blind spot strengths. Is so to focus on people's strengths, okay? Because if now taking back to the example of Donald Trump, that he might be playing some of his strengths in overdrive, whatever, that doesn't benefit other people, is how can he turn it down? How can he dial it down and tune other people, some other of his strengths up? So then what we show people is if you were to think about, and I don't know if you've heard of the toxic triangle. So if you were just drawing imaginary triangle here, and you put 3 places in that toxic triangle of dependence, independence, and codependence, those are 3 places in the toxic triangle. So that's where a lot of workplaces, for example, there's blaming, finger pointing, leaders that think that they should be doing it all and just doing it by themselves because other people don't do their job, or codependence, which is like, I would serve you if you serve me. And all 3 of those places in the toxic triangle is, and I'm short-circuiting you through this now, it takes us a little bit more of self-discovery when we take people through this. Notice that all 3 of those places is about me. Codependence is I serve you so you can serve me. Okay, so for example, Donald Trump wanted to do certain things just to get votes in for the next election. Independence is that you serve me, you should be doing that. Okay, and that is also where blaming and criticizing happens. Independence is I serve me. So that's where a lot of leaders want to take control over, and they're in that, and that becomes a very lonely place as well. So what we do is we point people towards the opposite sides, and I'll just take that triangle and do a diamond. And that place is interdependence, is I serve us so we can serve others. That is the place where you get high energy and performance for yourself and for other people. That is where you use your strengths, your authentic self better. That's also the place of confident vulnerability, to say that, you know what, I don't need to be everything as a leader. I might have been great at, when I wasn't in a leadership role, I might have been great as the entrepreneur who had this idea, or this engineer that knew how the technology worked, for example. But now that I'm managing other people or leading other people, it's not only about me. And I don't have to be everything, because I've got this team of people that I need to lead. That can also play and play to their strengths and their authentic self, to align to our common purpose, and to have better experiences and better relationships and better results.
Okay, powerful principles. Thank you, Liezel. So is that the principle you wanted to share with us to help leaders move closer towards authentic leadership, or do you want to add something there in terms of my desire to get all my guests to put on their training and coaching hat and to say, listen, leaders, if you want to be a better authentic leader, here's a principle that I want to share with you or teach you. Do you have something like that you want to share with us?
Well, I think every person can basically take that and apply to their own life, because I think leaders need to know they need help. It starts with self-leadership for them. So asking some really key questions, and they can take, rewind the video, whatever, and just reflect on that for themselves. But I think what's important also for leaders is self-coaching, and to discover and learn a little bit more about themselves and how can they bring the best out in themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that concept, self-coaching. The whole coaching industry has boomed, hasn't it? But the challenge with coaching is the leader that coaches you, or the coach that coaches the leader, hardly ever sees the leader on the playing field, hardly ever sees the leader in meetings, engaging employees and staff and colleagues and stakeholders. And that's a real problem. I mean, imagine the coach of the Springbok team never seeing them play on the field, but the only time he spends quality time with them is during the week. And that I often find with coaching. When we talk about self-coaching, if I can teach someone to self-coach themselves as objectively as possible, well, they are with themselves all the time on the field. What's the essence of self-coaching? I mean, is it really possible to apply self-coaching?
It is, and if I can share something in my personal life after I've been exposed to this, because remember, I've been coaching and consulting for a very long time. But since I've had the model and the framework of the People Equity, the Interdependent Leadership Company that I went through before deciding to integrate it with what we are doing, I went through it myself to experience it. And I also applied it as a parent. So if I can take that maybe as an example, because a lot of people can resonate with that, because a lot of us are parents, is that I told my children when we came back in 2016 to South Africa, we lived in the Middle East for 7 years, and then I was closer back to the company that I founded in 2001, I kind of gave them a heads up to say that, you know what, I wasn't born to be a parent. That's what happened. I wanted, children at the right time. But, in between my role as a leader, as a parent, me happens. some of my strengths, I look at one of my top strengths is achiever, my number one. And that's, by the way, the number one strength globally, according to Gallup. That is me authentic. That plus, my other strengths that I play to, like belief and command and individualization and learner, etc. But that doesn't serve them really as my children. So sometimes, me happens, me kicks in. So after I've kind of have the model framework to notice when my strengths, for example, my achiever trips me into going into independence, for example, because that's what happened. My achiever trips me into independence, and that's not really, helpful if other people are not, then they're trying to, I don't know, they've got their needs. I can notice it, so I can coach myself and say, how do I dial down achiever, because that's not what other people here need right now. How can I, for example, dial up my individualization, which is a natural strength seeker, for example, and look at what my children in this example, for example, need. So you go through self-coaching because it started with self-insights and understanding yourself better, and to know what you are and to know what you are not, and just tap into your own authenticity, but just use it better. That becomes self-coaching. And so, yes, it is absolutely possible if people have the experiences and they know how, not the why I need to change and the what I need to do, but how. Self-coaching is possible.
Thanks, Liezel. So let's go a little bit broader now. What else must we as a society do to multiply authentic leaders, to make sure that we generate more of them out there in the next decade? You are doing a lot in your business. You are coaching, working with, helping them become more aware, the great tools that you shared with us, and more. But as a broader society, what must we do? Work on leadership in the family, maybe?
So I'll get to a moment about the workplace, what we need to do here, but something that's very close to my heart and that I think is so important if we are to keep the end in mind is our youth. And the place to start there that can shift the needle is, yes, our educators, but us as parents. We've been placing so much focus on employees, whatever. If I just look at the leaders and workplaces out there, that we are often neglecting our own children. And one great place to start is to really know your child and for them to find their own authenticity, and for you as parent to say, what you are is good enough. And for them to find their unique purpose and make decisions around that. Not your purpose for your child, not your career decisions for them, but them. So just on something on the parenting thing, why it's so important. I think I was given twins. So I've got twins. They are 18.5 years old. They're first year university. To tell the world how uniquely different people are here. Here are two boys, born on the same day, having the same parents, both went to school, lived in the same country, same house. They are so uniquely different. And for my one child, it was especially important for him because he didn't feel congruent in the environment back in South Africa in the school with who he was, is to find his own authenticity and that it was good and it was fine. So I think that's first role for us as parents. For educators, it's important not to treat people the same and expect, everyone should act like little soldiers and be the same and learn the same, etc. So I do think we need to start at the grassroots, first of all, from young children. If we want to kind of grow that authenticity later on for the people that will enter the world of work, for example, later on and be contributors to society, to live out their purpose. In the workplace, we do need to significantly dial up leadership development. but not knowledge and skills. We've got enough knowledge and skills out there. We need to become less focused on giving people, sending people on MBAs and programs that will give them a certificate. And we need to give leaders more personal experiences that will help them with the how. And we shouldn't just focus on people in leadership or management position. We can't simply just replace the word management now with leadership, as we've done 20 odd years ago. Leadership is something that needs to be on all levels. If we just say that people in our management positions need to be authentic leadership, that's kind of dependency to say, you should be leading us. Leadership is also something in self-leadership that should actually happen throughout the organization. So I think maybe that's some of my suggestions that I would love to see more of.
Liezel, thank you so much. Just want to make sure I get your business right. Liezel Blignaut, some valuable insights. CEO of HCB Solutions, Human Capital Business Solutions, for sharing your views on authentic leadership, your views on how to be a more authentic leader. Very strong slant of personal awareness, self-awareness, self-coaching, finding my strengths, focusing on those strengths, but not overextending them, focusing on others as well. So a lot of valuable principles that you've shared with us. Thank you so much. We need it these days. We need this kind of inspiration on how to be better leaders. And I hope leaders will take periods like lockdowns seriously in terms of personal development, in terms of connecting with myself. What else can I do? Okay, I will work from home as much as I can, but let me find some time to discover who I am. And thank you for your time.
It was really a pleasure, and yes, thank you for doing this work. Thank you for putting the leadership platform out there, so that it can be shared with the people that need it most.
Thanks, Liezel. All the best during the next few weeks.
Yes, and you too, absolutely. And just, mentioning about the lockdown and what's happening globally. So it is a great time for introspection, for leaders to think about interdependence. It's not just about you, but this is a great opportunity to align people towards a common enemy or common purpose.
Yeah, and we are more interdependent than ever before, aren't we? I mean, my goodness.
It is now needed more than ever. That's the place of where collaboration and synergy happens. And that is what we need now.
Liezel Blignaut, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Thank you, Audrey, and have a good day. Bye.